Welcome to Birds of a Feather Microcast, where we explore how strong connections drive our success. My name's Jeremy. I'm co-founder of Feather, and for today's conversation, I'm pleased to introduce Bryan Dell, three-time CRO, leading go-to-market functions at amazing companies such as Chronosphere, Lacework, Big Panda, App Dynamics, and Medallia. It's truly a superstar and rock star lineup there. And Bryan, you hold a really special place in my heart. When we were chatting just the other day about this, but for everyone else who's listening, Bryan actually helped recruit me into App Dynamics when I was a really young, early in career seller. I rolled up into your organization, and I actually did my first full new business meeting presentation to you, and you sat there with a stone face and gave me great feedback afterwards, and so it really helped sharpen the sword. And then again, Bryan, you recruited me years later into your sales leadership team at Chronosphere. So you've made a huge impact on my career. The relationship that we've had has been an awesome, and I'll be forever grateful for it. And today we're going to focus in on why investing in these relationships really matter, both to our success in our professional lives as well as in our personal lives. And I'm super thankful for having you on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me here, Jeremy. One small correction, though. I'm a two-time CRO so far, and soon to be three, but I just wanted to correct that for you along the way.
Two-time CRO.
Yes. But really glad to be here. Excited to be here, and thank you for the kind words. And I remember that sales challenge vividly as well. I can remember the office we were sitting in, and it was fun.
Yeah, awesome, amazing. Well, let's kick this off a little bit just by hearing more about your most recent role. What were you doing over at Chronosphere? Maybe you could tell us a little bit about what meaningful connections meant in that capacity. And if there's anyone that stands out on, made an impact on you along the way of getting you there, feel free to shout them out.
Yeah, awesome. Most recently, I was the CRO of Chronosphere. I weeks ago announced my departure, and I'm in the process of lining up the next thing, so stay tuned for that. But great experience and real strong run at Chronosphere in general. I was the chief revenue officer. I had responsibility for all go-to-market functions, from pre-sales and sales to operations and post-sales, in partnership with Song Park, who was our chief customer officer. But look, relationships throughout my career, and I'll talk about a few of those here in a second, I just think it's what we do in sales. It's what we do day in and day out, and sometimes we do without even knowing about it. I think over the years for me, I've gotten more cognizant of it and try to invest in it more. But like specifically, people that helped me get here, there's been a ton. I'll name a few that are, Scott Davis and Dan Fougere have been incredibly impactful for me and continue to help me to this day. Choosing to go to work for them at Medallia was truly an inflection point in my career, and just a time that I am super grateful for. And I learn from those guys every single day still. But I think about it in preparation for this conversation. I was thinking about it, right? And I still talk to my wrestling coach from high school, who Coach Pagano. He was a huge influence on me, like even back then, to the point where 30 years later, I still communicate with them, and I go sort of each step in the journey in my career. At Quest, it was a guy named John Newsom at CA. I think John Hunter, but another guy that was a huge influence on me. And then even like investors like Sangeet Zeb from Google, Steve Walsky, who helped bring me in and support me at Big Panda, Scott Jordan from Glenn, Kim Moore, like those folks have been super supportive, and just relationships that are critically important. And then, like, last but certainly not least, people like yourself, right? Anybody who has ever been on a team with me or who has chosen to join me on any one of these journeys, right? There's a lot of trust that goes with that, especially people that have done it more than once. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not. But I value all of those relationships, and it's all really helped me get here.
It's amazing. I think that was probably the broadest spectrum of possible relationships, from high school wrestling coach to Kim over at in the investment community. But it really goes to show that, like, it's not just one relationship, it's an ecosystem that really helps us become who we are.
Yeah.
And I figured before we go a little bit deeper, maybe I could double click and get your thoughts on, you said you've become more cognizant over the years. What were you thinking when you were saying that?
I think like if you go back even to like that wrestling coach, like he invested in me, and he invested hard in the relationship. And I appreciated it then. As I have gotten older, I look back on it, I was like, wow, like that, he didn't have to do what he did to help me mature as a young man and as a wrestler. And, you know, the same thing could be said for guys like John Newsom or John Hunter, who were just early in my career. I was very focused on myself and and I was a sales rep, right? That's what I was supposed to do. I wasn't in leadership right away. I was out there to make as much money as possible and work for me and my family. I didn't actively go out and think about how do I invest in these relationships because I know how important it is, but I had great role models that invested in me. And as I started to learn and watch them invest in relationships, not just in me, but other people around me, like as I have moved into leadership and through the leadership ranks, I'm very like I'm deliberate in investing in relationships, and I'm deliberate in making sure that people know that I care about them as humans along the way. And I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, you know, especially being a multi-time leader, having people that want to come rock with you in different capacities and different jobs and different, you know, basically pick up the torch and keep going. But it takes a lot of time and a lot of like personal introspection to figure that out. I know while I was a leader working for you, we've had lots of conversations about what it takes to be really good with the people that you work with and your team members and your peers and just everyone, right? The whole ecosystem. Yeah. And, you know, it definitely takes time to figure some of that out. And so I'm curious to know if there's any stories from like early days where when you're looking back or thinking about it, maybe you're not as proud as you might be about some of the relationships, because it's not always smooth sailing, right? So curious if you can recall, you know, a professional connection that may have taught you a tough lesson along the way.
Yeah, for sure. There's a few of them, but there's one that stands out, and it's I learned some tough lessons. It also kind of pushed me in some funny directions. It's one of those serendipitous things, I think, in my life. But very clearly, I was at CA. Mike Gregoire had just came in as the new CEO a few months back, and he was trying to reinvigorate CA. And part of the thing that we did was create these what we called new enterprise teams, where we were selling to the customers who did not own mainframes with us. So the Facebooks, the Apples, the T-Mobiles of the world. And I was building and leading a team that was one of the inaugural teams in that spot. And Mike was coming around as the new CEO to go on a bit of a roadshow and meet the sales teams and meet customers. And myself and my team, we set up a bunch of really good meetings for him. And so I hosted him and I spent a few days with him, which was amazing, right? New CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. And I'm a first-line leader, and I got a chance to spend time with him, showcase the things that my team was doing, got him into a bunch of customer meetings, and was able to learn from him and have him understand who I was a little bit, right? Which so good relationship story. One of the people we met was a guy named John Strain, who was the CIO of Williams-Sonoma. And they were a big user of a product called Nimsoft at the time. And our meeting was mostly around like health of the relationship, health of the product and the value they were getting from it. And that all went great. And it strengthened my relationship with John. It strengthened, Mike built a relationship with John, and again, all good. Well, fast forward maybe like a couple of months, it's the end of the quarter. Our region is going to fall short. Not just my team, but my boss's team. And somebody called me, I'm not going to mention this name, but this person said, hey, like, we need $1 million. Can you help us find it somewhere? And like, we tapped most of the deals and our forecast was pretty tight. But Williams-Sonoma, we had learned a couple of days before, had about $1 million over deployment. And with like a week left in the quarter, we tried to collect on it. And I knew in my heart of hearts it was the wrong thing to do. But I was also trying to support the team and find that extra $1 million. And you always want to be the hero. And as you would imagine, calling up a customer and saying with $1 million over deployment that they had to pay in a week, that doesn't go over so well. And we did not get the deal, and we missed the quarter on that team. And fast forward again, probably another like 3-4 weeks, I'm just sitting there on like a Tuesday afternoon at my desk, and my phone rings, and this was like the days of office phones, and I look down and it's Mike Gregoire, and I'm like, like, why is the CEO calling me on a Tuesday afternoon? That's weird. And I picked up the phone and I'm like, hello. And he's like, Bryan. I'm like, yes. He's like, please tell me that it's not true that you tried to collect $1 million over deployment from Williams-Sonoma with a week left in the quarter. And I'm like, yeah, it's true. And I don't feel great about it. And yeah. And he's like, he was silent for a couple of seconds. You could hear like a couple of deep breaths. And he's like, I had the opportunity to spend a few days with you, and I believe that someday you're going to be a great software executive. But this was, I forget the words he used, but they were not polite. And then he said, "Now go effing fix it." And then we parted ways. And I did have to go call and apologize. And like but it damaged the relationship. It damaged my credibility with our new CEO. And the funny part of the story is I had never in 6 years at CA taken a call from a recruiter, not a single call. And later that afternoon, I actually got a call from a recruiter to tell me about Medallia. And I took it just because I was like, you know what, like I've had a rough day. Like, let's see what happens with this recruiting call. And, maybe I'll just have some fun with the recruiter, maybe not. But one thing led to another, and that's how I wound up at Medallia and got connected to Scott and Dan, and the rest is history. But yeah, man, painful lesson. You have to sometimes make the hard decision when you know that what you're doing is what you're doing isn't the right thing, and you have this gut feeling that there's some other that the other way is the right way. And you got to trust that gut, even if the outcome of that is painful, because usually the outcome when you don't trust your gut is significantly more painful, both relationship wise and what it means for the business.
Yeah, I would wonder if that CIO would pick up your call again. Probably not, but I think you got put in a tough spot in that one, right? It's like you're being dependent on by the business, but you also have to do the right thing by the people that you work with and the customers and the reps that are rolling up to you. So, like in hindsight, if you got that exact same scenario, what might you have done now?
I mean, I just would have said no. Honestly, I would have shared that I don't think it's the right thing to do for the business. I don't think it's the right thing to do for our relationship with that customer or that person. I would have made it really clear, that our CEO was just out there. And, it turned out that if you think about relationships, the CEO in this first meeting built a relationship with John Strain, right? And Mike Gregoire was also a very good relationship guy. And he gave him his cell phone number and his direct line. And when John Strain heard about that, he called him. He didn't call me to say, what do you do? And he called the CEO and said, hey, like, do you know your team's doing this? Right. So like, yeah, I mean, I just would have said no. Like, I think earlier in my career, it's hard to say no sometimes, especially when you're, trying to prove yourself, you're trying to move up the ladder, and you want to do everything possible to win and help the company and be a hero, right? I mean, I definitely wanted to be a hero, and I should not have tried to do it that way. It would have been better. I would have been more of a hero if I had the courage to say no, that I just had nothing else. I wasn't going to do it, or I was going to hit my forecast, but I didn't have another $1 million to get, and I wasn't willing to make that call. That's probably what I would have done different.
Yeah, it's tough situations that kind of forge our our path moving forward, and through those tough lessons, like there's a lot of good stuff that comes from it. Right now you're rocking over at Medallia, you're getting into app dynamics, and you have obviously had a meteoric rise, and you've made such an impact on so many lives. And so on a more positive note, I would love to hear if there's an awesome story of like where you really felt, hey, like this relationship was nurtured and it made a huge impact and difference in your life.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of places I could take this, and there's a relationship that I'm particularly proud of, I think, and I don't know that this one has made a huge impact on my life personally per se, but it's definitely was a huge business impacting relationship, and one that like it's like the cat and the mouse being friends, right? Or Tom and Jerry, like it's with a procurement leader at a firm. So this was at Chronosphere over the last few years, and a firm is a customer that started with us in a meaningful but small way compared to where they are today, and over time has grown both in spend and in product and in the way they're committing to us. And there's a guy there named Alex Hennies, and one of the better procurement people I've worked with, in that he also values relationships, right? And it was not adversarial. Sometimes procurement and sales, like it feels adversarial and you're competing. It was constantly constructive and salespeople throw out the word partnership a lot, and it's usually BS. I really felt that with a firm and as a company, between a firm and Chronosphere, and with Alex, we were always working in true partnership. And like he wasn't easy to negotiate with, right? He gave us a real hard time, but he also like took the time to understand what was important to us and tried to find the right ways to solve complex contractual and financial problems together so that he could get what he needed and we got what we needed. But it really was done from the same side of the table. And for me, as I reflect on our many conversations together, there's a couple of things that really stick out. One, like I actually got to know the guy, and he me, right? I know about his upcoming wedding. I understood about his engagement. Like he would tell me when he was going on a trip with his fiance or doing wedding planning, and like he knew a little bit about my family. And our conversations started a lot with some personal, just like little small talk. And I appreciated that he remembered things about me, and I think he appreciated that I was asking him how the wedding planning is going. And like we took the time to get to know each other on a personal level. So that was really like valuable and not something that you see all the time, again, especially between sales and procurement, when you have a sizable relationship that you have to work out across multiple contracts every single year. And there was a point where we needed a deal to hit our quarter. And he told me like, hey, I'm going to do everything I can I know this is important to you, right? And I'm going to do everything I can. And it wasn't about like, if you don't get this done, this special discount goes away, right? It was, I understand why this is important to you and to the company, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make it happen for you, because I know that you're doing everything in your power to help us meet the needs that we need as a business, both in the contractual arrangements and in our relationship between our teams and our product and their technical teams, right? So like, it's just it's not common, right? And it's not common on either side. And I was just incredibly proud at that moment, and we did get the deal done, and he delivered for us. And like when procurement, I didn't ask for that, right? He told me that. We had talked about timeline being important, but it was he offered it up, saying, hey, like, I know this is important to you, and like, you've got my commitment, and I'll work nights and I'll work weekends. And he did. He was responding 24 hours a day, and he was literally out wedding planning and answering emails, and he was on plane getting Wi-Fi to try to help get some things approved internally. And like, it really, I just believed, and it was clear that this guy was battling for us, and it was because of that relationship, and because there was a true partnership, not just a word without any backing behind it.
I love that, and I feel like it's such like a night and day between the two stories, right? Where like
Yeah.
really though, like putting in the effort and building the trust and earning the right to make the asks, and in such a way where maybe you don't even always have to make the ask, but people are now coming to bat together. So I love it for the fact that you were doing that. And the other thing that I love about it is, as somebody who had a huge organization and a lot of responsibilities. I mean, when I was working for you, Bryan, you had a lot of things, a lot of irons in the fire, and a lot of different teams running all the time.
Yeah.
To get you to go roll up the sleeves as somebody to go take on building a meaningful connection with a customer, and it's a team sport, right? So I think
Yeah.
that's a really special thing. And if there is one, we're going to wrap this up with you giving us a takeaway, but one takeaway for me really is that like. No one really, like, companies don't own the relationships, right? It's really personal, and it's impossible to put in the calories and the effort across every single possible person to go build relationships. So working as a team to really, build that strong fabric, I think, yields that great outcome. So that's an awesome story. I love it. So with that said, we're pretty much at time here, but I'd love maybe for the people that are listening to us, if you can leave them with one actionable thing, one key takeaway, something that, as a seller, as a sales leader, as just somebody who wants to do better, what do you do and what do you recommend we can do in our day to be better at this?
I'm probably going to jumble a few things into this one, but I think they all fit together really well. But like in short, I would say, be genuinely care about other people, right? And with that means you need to be curious about that person. It means you need to build trust through your own personal vulnerability, right? That's I'm sure you've heard trust through vulnerability through many people. John Hunter, we talked about him earlier. He was the one that like first said that to me, but like I'm very open about who I am, my good and my negative. I'm very open about my family. I'm very open about my past and where I come from and how that's forming. That, like, I wasn't like that all the time, but the more that, especially as a leader, that you share with people on your team, the more comfortable they feel sharing with you. And like I'll tie that to like, be selfless in a kind of a selfish world, like, right? It's purposefully, sales, you have to be a little selfish, but how do you really try to be as selfless as possible, and think through and just care about other people, like I said, with true curiosity and being genuine about it, and then maybe the last thing, and this is maybe related to the one story but ancillary, is just stay true to who you are and who you want to be. Like, none of us are perfect, and we have this vision of who we are today, and we have this vision of who we really want to be and who we want to show up as. And I think the more you can do that, good things happen in life, and good things happen in business, and good things happen in relationships. But it starts with being genuine and genuinely caring about other people, and the relationship winds up forming itself in a lot of ways. And again, I was blessed that I had people early in my life and early in my career that I think genuinely cared about me and showed me what great looked like there. And I have just tried to emulate what I see from those people, and it's done me good so far. So
yeah, it's amazing. And it's tough too. I'll add one more thought to it, is that balancing genuine effort and authenticity with being disciplined around it. Because it's like, I know you're into martial arts, right? And I know you and Paul you guys go to martial arts and you practice regularly, and whether it's going to the gym or just like being diligent about and disciplined about the things that are important. Being genuine, being vulnerable, taking the time out to actually go make those deposits into other people when it's not convenient for us, or it's not in the moment where we need it the most. That's really hard in a world where we're pulled, you shared with me all the amazing things happening with your family. Like, we're pulled in family directions, personal directions, work directions. And it's a hard thing to go do. And so, I think the skill comes in not just executing on being vulnerable, being genuine, but balancing it with being consistent. and
Yeah.
doing that in a really nice way.
I know we're wrapping up, but I just want to like add one thing to that, because it is hard to like, and I'm terrible at like proactively sometimes keeping in touch with people. But when somebody like calls me and needs something, I'm better than anybody at finding time for it. And what I think is actually the easy part. And if you just think about the story with Alex at a firm, right? Like, do you take a minute or 2 minutes to like ask them something relevant about themselves? And do you like actually tie it to a previous conversation you had? Like that, this is the genuine and the curiosity part. Like, do I ask him how his weekend was? And then when he answers me, I don't listen to the answer. Or when he answers me and he tells me he was wedding planning, and do I make a mental note of that? And the next time, instead of just asking how his weekend was, I ask him how the wedding is shaping up, and maybe get a reminder of when the date is, right? And like, which one is more personal and which one hits more of a connection? And it's not actually any extra work. Sometimes like just remembering somebody's wife's name, like and I'm terrible at that too. But if I hear someone mention their wife's name or their husband's name, I write it in my phone in their contact information. And the next time I'm gonna have a conversation with them, I just like quick look in their contact and make sure that I have that name handy, so that like they know that I paid attention. And sometimes I'm better than others too. But like it's the tiny little things. Do you start your one-on-one off with your direct report, like drilling into the numbers, or do you like genuinely want to see how they're doing for 2 minutes? It's not that much work to do that kind of stuff. To be proactive and keep like building the network all over, yeah, that's hard, and I'm not great at that many times. But I try to be great in my personal interactions with people, and I don't think that's hard. You just have to just be deliberate about it and cognizant of it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And everything that you've talked about, from the tough lessons of maybe jumping the gun and not considering the relationship, not trusting your gut, to finding ways to go build meaningful connection, and really putting that effort in, and just the breadth of your career and your experience and the impact that you made, it's really remarkable. And I'm so happy, Bryan, that you joined us today. And this conversation really highlights why that intentionality in these relationships really matter, just like in the quality of our life and our existence in so many different ways. And for everyone that's listened here, we'd love to hear any comments, any thoughts, anything that's really resonated with you. Feel free to join us in the comments. And the good thing about Feather and what we're building, a little shameless plug here, is a system to help keep us accountable, to keep in contact with and in front of the people that matter. And I think that, we'd love to get more feedback as we go, trying to help, take that mental load out, but not lose that real genuine authenticity. So head over to feather.vip, check out what we're doing. And thank you so much. My name's Jeremy, and this has been Birds of a Feather. We'll see you again next time.